Hey everybody, how's it going? Sorry things didn't work out for the live broadcast for our first time on Thursday. We had some unexpected issues arise, which we should have expected them. But anyway, I didn't want to not give you the opportunity to benefit from the information that was going to be in the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. This week we're going to get into making virtual reality a reality in your classroom. Now, virtual reality, I was first introduced to it a number of years ago in the form of a Google Cardboard viewer, and we'll talk about different devices here in a little bit. But it was simply a cardboard. It looked like the old viewfinders that we had as kids, some of us, and you put your phone in it, and the app that I looked at was a roller coaster app. So it was amazing to me that I had the same sensory experience on the app as I actually did on a roller coaster. Now, you don't feel the wind, you don't have some of the other stimuli, but the feeling that I had, loss of balance, nausea, disorientation, it was amazing to me. And of course, then there's that peak and then the valley of, okay, well, great. Well, what impact does this have on education? Like, what's the benefit in education? And I kind of put it to bed for a few years, but I've kind of been reinvigorated as I've seen more and more high quality content start coming out. So high quality content that actually aligns with curriculum, skills, and standards. It's really heavily focused as far as availability right now. It's really heavily focused on science and history, but there's more and more coming out that it may not be explicitly aligned with mathematics, but there could be some ways that you could align the experience with the math. And we'll talk about why you would want to do that a little bit later on. So let's jump right into it. First of all, some vocabulary. Virtual reality versus augmented reality. Merriam-Webster defines virtual reality as an artificial environment which is experienced through sensory stimuli, so like the roller coaster example, such as sights and sounds, provided by a computer. In this case, it wasn't a cell phone, which one's actions partially determine what happens in the environment. So the cool part about it is while I was on the roller coaster, I could actually look around, look up, look down. So not only was I seeing the track of the roller coaster, but I was actually able to look around like I would in the actual environment. So that's what virtual reality is. You are being transported somewhere else. You're still sitting or standing in one spot, but you're mimicking the experience being taken somewhere else, or having another experience. Now, AR, augmented reality, if you were aware of or engaged in or are still playing Pokemon Go, that's a situation where you take your actual reality and you layer something visual on top of it. In that case, it was the Pokemon characters. There's an app called Erasma that allows you to overlay videos and images on reality. There's some paint companies allow you to actually see what the color is going to look like on your wall before you buy it. Before you buy a couch, you can actually see what the couch is going to look like in your living room. So virtual and augmented reality, I should say, augmented reality is getting a lot more exposure in the commercial and business space. But our focus today is on education. So let's talk about benefits. Now, it's interesting talking about benefits because yesterday morning I got a newsletter from, if you're not familiar with Common Sense Media, I would certainly pursue it if I were you. Common Sense Media, they address a lot of areas from digital citizenship to making reviews and supporting parents and supporting educators on how to help students use technology productively, safely, everything from the content to posture, to the amount of hours spent, and they look at it from a lot of different angles. But they sent out a report yesterday. They did some research. They interviewed over 12,000 families to kind of get family perspectives on VR, virtual reality. And what they're finding is that kids don't use VR very much. And there's some statistics on this infographic. There's not an interest level yet because it's not as commercially available. It's not expensive. We'll talk about some of the prices on the consumption and the production equipment. It's not very expensive. But the content, there's not a lot of content. A lot of people go over again, that peak and valley, that peak of excitement of, oh, this is really cool, to, okay, well what now? And we're going to talk about the what now today. So this kind of outlines some of the reasons why they're not interested as a family yet, but they do say that they think there's going to be some educational value a little later on in the infographic. Health is important, okay? You might not think about these things, but if we're going to equip a class full of 7-year-olds with VR goggles, they're going to want to walk around the room, not safe. So health issues, from bumping into something to dizziness to headache and eye strain. As with anything, it's with moderation, okay? What are they doing with it? Well, majority are playing games. 76% of those that are using it to play games. There's a lot of interactive video games that are available. 38% watching videos or movies, 33% exploring environments, and learning something, 22%. So those are the two big ones for education. That's the hook there in education. It does have educational promise. Now, of the reasons why it's beneficial for kids to use VR, and adults for that matter, this is what parents say. Parents say that it will allow children to do things they otherwise couldn't do. That applies in schools as well. Virtual reality allows kids to go places, experience things that they may never have an opportunity to. Not in like a fixed mindset way, but they're not all going to be able to scale a mountain. They're not all going to be able to go to the Great Wall of China. They're not all going to be able to visit a hut in a village. Virtual reality is a way to do that, take them places, which leads to the next strength, which allows them to build empathy, okay, awareness of other people globally and locally, but that's another benefit. And then, yeah, it's fun. The third one is fun. If you are interested, let me know, and I can shoot you this link. But there's the full research that's made available. And in education, why do we use it in education? What are some tips? We'll hit these tips now. Tip number 1 is be selective when it comes to what students play. Don't give them free rein, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. Focus on giving experience versus delivering content, especially the first few times you use virtual reality. If that's your content delivery tool, it's going to be overshadowed by the experience. They're not going to get the content because they're so focused on the experience. Okay, first time you use virtual reality, to that cool factor, yeah, it'd be nice if it aligned with something you were doing, but it's to build the experience with it. Then as you use it more and more, you can get a little bit heavier on the content. It's an engagement tool. It's not a silver bullet. Like anything, it's not going to work for everybody. And really look at it from the perspective of helping kids build empathy. That's really important. Play it safe. Okay, it's going to take a long time first few times, but let's not have these exhaustive experiences. And we'll see with one of the products, Nearpod, that some of those experiences are kind of long. So if you can break these up into bite-sized pieces, that would be advisable. Okay, so that is what the research says about virtual reality. Now let's jump into the really cool stuff. The gadgets. Now, when I'm talking about gadgets, I'm really talking about two things. Number 1, gadgets for consuming, so taking it in, and gadgets for producing, putting it out, okay, making. So on the consumption side, if you have an iPad, if you have a cell phone, if you have a laptop, if you have a computer, any other tablet, you can consume virtual reality on most of those. Okay, you can go to websites, you can watch videos, you can engage in games that are virtual reality. As far as rather than just holding it, they have a couple of viewing options. They have the cardboard viewer, which there's an example there. Then they have the multimedia viewers, which is a little bit more rugged with straps, and there's speakers, and some even rumble. I mean, there's a lot more that you can do with the actual viewing itself. Now let's talk about the production side. So how do you make virtual reality? You don't have to have high-tech equipment. You can make virtual reality or 360 content using your iPad or your phone. And I'm going to show you one. Here, let me go ahead and see if I can pull this up. Cardboard Camera is an app that allows you to take pictures, and the way it works is when you're taking the picture, you hold the device out and you actually spin around in a full 360-degree turn. And what it's doing is it's recording it all frame by frame all the way around. Now, as you look on the screen, what it makes is, yeah, that's okay. It's okay. It's a little choppy and not real smooth, but It doesn't really, there's no investment. It's on the phone, the device that you already have. As opposed to the next level up, I would call it, which is a 360 camera. Okay, this is the Ricoh Theta. There's quite a few of these around the district, so if you want to get into creating your own virtual content, let us know. We'll fix you up. But these have fisheye lenses on the front and the back, so when you take a picture, it actually takes half of a sphere and the other half of the sphere, and then it stitches them together. So an example of that I want to show you is pretty much that same view. But with an actual 360 camera. And if you look, it's much smoother. Now it's a little bit warped, but I can look up and I can look down. Okay, so it's just a much better quality. You can also use these for recording video. The video is not as smooth and crisp. It's a little grainy, but it works. It works. So you can create content with your phone or with a camera such as this, or you can get really crazy and get into the professional cameras. And on the professional cameras, you're looking at something like this. When this loads, much more expensive, much more cumbersome. It's not transportable, and this is really for professional production. Okay, so you're creating feature-length films and tourism things and virtual tours of colleges. So that's a whole nother level. But so that's on the production side. Okay, so I have all these individual pictures. What can I do with them? Well, you can look at them on a tablet. You can look at them on a computer. But you can also create virtual tours. So what I've done is I took a few of those pictures and actually stitched them together. This is a tool called MakeVT, makevt.com, and I took one. I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard. Hi, Joni. And you can tell this is a still image, but this was taken with that Ricoh Theta. Okay, there's my coffee. So this would be my view, okay? Now what I'm able to do then is I can go to the next scene. And on this next scene, I'm actually going to go out in the hallway. So now I'm looking out the hallway, and I can also use my mouse to turn around. Oh, there I am right there. So may want to take some Dramamine or motion sickness pills. But what you can actually do is create virtual tours with hotspots. That on the hotspots, when you click the hotspot, it'll take you to the next place. So that's called MakeVT. There's another one called Panoroo, and there's another one that I've used called HoloBuilder. HoloBuilder is a little bit more for people that are designing houses and in real estate, but it works. But full disclosure, these are not intended to be used by kids, so they're not going to be COPPA or SIPA compliant, meaning that there's going to have terms of use that most of these you need to be 18. So if you're going to do something like this, I would start by you creating it, and then it's going to be a group project. You're the one that's going to be actually be building it in your account. We can't create accounts for kids on that, but I'm going to continue to look for options where kids can actually build, because I think that's where the real power is at. So that's the production side of things. So next we're going to take a look at stuff that's already out there that you have access to. Nearpod is a tool that I've used for a number of years, and it's a way to take presentations that either you create or that you find. It puts it on the students' devices, puts it on their laptops, and you can control the pace of the presentation. So they're not clicking ahead. You can control it. So I've been using it in that those terms for a number of years. But within the last year or so, they started introducing virtual tours. Okay, so this is one of ancient Egypt. I'm in as a student right now, and I'm just moving my iPad up and down, and I'm turning it to look all the way around. So this is a virtual tour of ancient Egypt, and along with the 360 images, what you're able to do is there's embedded questions and text and things like this. But so that this control part I was talking about, I don't know if you can see my screen. Now I'm going to go ahead as the teacher and go to the next slide, and it took the students' presentation to the next slide. Okay, so some text, some background information. and then back to the picture. Okay, so with Nearpod, it'll take a second to load, but with Nearpod, there's a number of, with your kind of your basic account, you get so many lessons that you can access. There's 10 VR lessons that you can use. You can't have all of them in your library at one time just because of storage issues, but with some of the expanded accounts that you can get, like the gold and the platinum, you get access to more. But that's a great place to start. This should be an example of, this is a really long presentation, so may not plan on getting all of it done in one day. But what this does is it marries the 360 experience, or the VR experience, with the content. So I'll leave it to you. When you go into Nearpod, you have to create an account, and then right there on the dashboard, one of the options is VR lessons for you to take a look at. So that is VR. So you get 10 free trips, many more with paid account. It works on iPad, desktop, laptop, mobile device, and it also works with cardboard, where you don't have to hold it at all. It splits the image into two, and you can look around. It's pretty cool. And you can control the pace of the trip. So this is great because it works on all the devices. Google Expeditions. Our office just kind of ran across this just a few months ago. What Google Expeditions allows you to do is take kids literally all around the world, but this one's a lot more diverse in the content that's available. So I'm going to pull this up again, and so when you log into Expedition, there's two roles. You're either a guide or you're a follower. With the guide, you're like a tour guide, okay? You are going to lead the tour that your students are participating in. So this is only available on iPad, iOS devices. There's probably Android as well, but we're an iPad heavy district, so there's not a desktop version of this. It has to be done using mobile device. I know that puts our secondary folks and intermediate folks at a disadvantage, but at this point, Google Expeditions only on iPad. But you can use your iPad. Students can use their own devices. They just need the Expeditions app. So it's broken down from art and culture, landscape, science, environment, the world today, careers, colleges. So it's a little bit more than just science and just history. So if we're looking at a metal artisan, Rob Ferraroni. So here's the experience. Here's the experience. So as the teacher, you download it, and then you open it. And then what the student does is, so I'm on my student device right here, and I can see that, oh, Kevin Shamel has started a tour. I'm going to join it. And the minute you join it, and the teacher starts it, now I am in it, and I can look around. I can look up and down. Pretty cool. Now, what's cool about it is a lot of the things that are on here is teachers may not have a lot of background in, but there's a guide. There's a guide that tells you about it, the people, the places, the things. Another really cool thing is, do you see the smiley face on the screen? The smiley face on the screen is referring to where your students are at. So if you're telling them to look at the computer monitor, and I can see that now that student is looking there. You can kind of see if they're on task by the number of smiley faces there. But if you want to direct their attention to things, which is cool, you can click, okay, the team. When I click on the team, you may not be able to see it on my little one here, but of course I'm trying to click on that, it actually directs the students. You probably can't see that on mine, but there's a little white arrow, and the white arrow tells the kids where to look. All right, so Expeditions is really cool. That inventory seems to continue to grow the library of available tours, so I encourage you to check that out. It just requires the app on your device and the app on student devices. So moving on, we're going to go see if I missed anything. Yeah, it works with iPads and mobile devices only. Okay, YouTube 360. Now, YouTube 360, really cool because everything we've looked at so far has been still images. YouTube, a video platform, has 360 and VR video. Completely different experience, okay? Because now I have sights and I have sounds and it's moving while I'm looking around, and I'll show you a couple of examples. Now I say carefully search. Don't do these random searches with a class full of kids, because there's a lot of junk in there that would lead to some pretty uncomfortable conversations based on the ages of your students, okay? So do your research ahead of time, and if you don't want to give kids the full access to go in and start looking, you can actually take these videos and you can embed them into Canvas pages. A little bit more of an advanced application, but it's pretty easily done. You do it a few times and you'll get really good at it. But I will show you a couple of examples here of a 360 video. Now you're not going to be able to hear the sound, but actually you might. So here's one, Battle Road. I'm going to go ahead and click on Battle Road, Revolutionary War. Let me click on this. And on iPads, let's talk about iPads first. If you look at it on the YouTube browser on the iPads, it'll actually flatten the video image and it won't look right. You'll actually need to do it in the app itself. On devices like laptops and PCs, it's not a problem.
On the afternoon of April 19th, 1775, the first day of the American Revolution is unfolding.
You may or may not be able to see people moving around. And what's cool is,
see the
even
British
though
regulars out in the open,
action,
trying to fight their way back to Boston.
I can grab the screen.
Look around and try to find colonial darting through the woods.
This afternoon, that's why you're probably hearing a weird buzzing noise. But assuming all things are working as they should, then yeah, you can completely turn all the way around. You can look completely up and down. It's really cool. A little bit later on, when the soldiers actually start running past you, you can look all you can look at all directions and see it. So the 360
by Amos Dooley show what's already happened.
Videos are really cool. So just go on YouTube and you do a search 360 videos or VR videos. And then you can even, if you have particular content that you're looking for, just put that content in the search term itself. So if you're looking on things on Pearl Harbor, or if you're looking up things on the respiratory system, or if you're looking up things with a world culture, those are all good search terms. Just take a little bit of time to go check that out. The last couple things I want to take a look at here, Google Street View. Google Street View and Google Earth, those are really helpful as well, because that allows folks to go most places in at least the United States and many places in the world. When you go to, like, I'll go ahead and pull up Street View here, or actually Google Earth, it works very similarly. The Street View app works as well. I'm on an iPad, so I'm going to use Google Earth. The way it works, I'll go ahead and pull this up so you can see it. The way it works is you'll, of course, put in the address that you want to look for. So you can look for an actual address, you can look for a landmark, a city, whatever it is. In this case, we'll look for our office. And this just looks like a normal map, a normal Google map. But in the top left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, there's this little icon of a person. When you click that person, that's the Street View icon. And when you click on that, anything that's viewable from Street View will be highlighted in blue. So all of Hub Etchison Parkway, you can see, is highlighted in blue. So when I click on that on my iPad, it will put it into Street View. Street View puts you in first-person perspective, where I can look around. Okay, so there's Civic Hall. A little further down, you'll find the high school and the central office building. So this is a good way to transport kids to places that they may not normally have a chance to go. So this will integrate with a lot of different content areas. Then one step beyond that is what's called Google Tour Builder. Google Tour Builder, we haven't found out a great way to use that on iPads yet. We've kind of made it work, but it's not very easily. But this is great for browsers. If you go to Google Tour Builder, you can actually take individual locations and put them in a tour, so that if you're reading a book, you can make a tour of all the places that the characters might have gone in the story. Or if you're doing something in world history or U.S. history, if you're trying to trace the path of people through migration or through military conquest or whatever, you create this tour builder, you get that to your kids, they can actually go from place to place to place without having to actually search for the places. So it's a way to make that process a little bit more streamlined. So Google Street View, Google Earth, very similar, thousands of locations. They're still images, they're not videos. So that's it. Again, sorry that the RCS Learn Live, the live portion of it, didn't work right. We're going to try to figure out what happened so we can avoid it in the future, and we wait for something else to go wrong. But I at least still wanted to make sure that you have this information. Please reach out to a member of the eLearning staff if you have interest in VR, that either creating or consuming, both are pretty powerful for those reasons we talked about. It's going to give kids experiences they might not have ordinarily had. It's going to help them develop empathy for other people, not only in our region but around the world. And the third part, honestly, it's fun. It's fun to have kids get engaged and be excited about something in school, and this is a great tool for that. You can use the iPads that you have, you can use the laptops you have for many of these things, but we also are building a set of virtual reality goggles that are going to be available. So they're going to be iPod Touches. We've got a pilot set right now, and it's gone really well, so we've been able to grow that. It's going to have viewers, and it's also going to have the iPod Touches. So those are going to be great for small group and some whole group once they get some experience. So we want to make sure that you know about that as well. So until next week on RCS Learn Live, hope you learned something. Hope that you took something away that you didn't know before and that you want to try out in your classroom. Reach out to any member of our team. We're here to help. Thanks. Have a great day.